species abundance. Species abundance. We should take both in the account when we consider the species diversity, but we normally give more weightage to species richness, because even if a species is absent, just imagine like we have two habitats. In one habitat we have 6 different species, although their number is lesser, I mean 7, 8, 5, 3, but all can exist in a place. And in the other place we have about 100 individuals, but these 100 individuals belong to 2 different species only. So you know the diversity is lesser in community B, because although the number of individual is greater, but the number of individual is not totally reflect the the variation among the species, because there's only 2 species. So we give more weightage to species richness initially, and then we will decide. Now there's sometime we have cases in the exams paper, normally even in your book, that you will be given 2 different communities where both the species richness and total abundance remains equal. Then what should we do? Which one has the higher biodiversity and which one has the lower biodiversity? I'm just going to change this case now, and I'm going to change these number again here. So let's talk about now species A here, it's 12, species B here is 15, species C is 10, species D is 8, and species E is, it's 12. So let's see, the total number is 27 plus 10, 37, and 37 plus 8 is 35, 35 plus 12, it's 47 is the total abundance, and the species richness is again 5, because we have 5 species here. Now let's talk about the community B. We have species A, which is 2 only. Species B we have 35, and species C we have 3, and species D we have 4, and species E has it's like it's 38, it's 40, so 40, then it's 6 and it's 1. So that means 47. Again, it's 37 plus 3, 40, and 47. Now to this question, the species richness is again 5. All these 5 species can exist both in community A and in community B. However, what about the total abundance? Yes, we see the total abundance, here's the 47, and 47 equals. So the question, which one has the the higher biodiversity among these 2 communities? Now there's one thing more which is called relative abundance. What is relative? What is relative abundance? So let's talk about the relative abundance. Relative abundance means the number of individual in each species with respect to the total number. I mean, if you want to calculate the relative abundance of A, so it is 12 out of 47, then 15 out of 47, 10 out of 47, 8 out of 47, 12 over in 47 means this is the relative abundance of each species in a community. Now if you calculate the relative abundance here in community B, what it does? Look at here. The relative abundance of species B is much greater in community B as compared to the rest of the species. So we can say that species B is dominated over the 4 species. I mean, it's only 2, 3, 6, and this is 35. So one species is highly dominated on the rest of the species. In other words, we can say that these species are evenly distributed. There's much more evenness in these individuals of different species. They are closely have a close number with one another. But in community B, there is a lot of domination by the community B on the rest of the species. So it means here in community B, we can say that that community 1 has more evenness among the species. So then we must have to decide the biodiversity of these two communities on the basis of evenness. It means community A and community B have both same species richness, they have same total abundance, but due to their differences in relative abundance, we can say that one species is much more dominated. So we say that community A has much more biodiversity as compared to community B. Why? Because community A is evenly distributed. And when populations in a community are evenly distributed, it means that there's less chances for a species to be eliminated from that community, because they are distributed everywhere, and if one of the species is dominated, so the other species will be quite less in number, and any disastrous effect and any intense change in the surrounding can eliminate these species, because they are quite lesser in number, like in community B. Here's species E is on great risk. There's only one individual of that species, and similarly community A is also on great risk. It's only 2. There's more chances of elimination of these species from the surrounding or from the community. So therefore, we also think about for their future process of evolution. So if you have less species, there will be less chances of evolution, and the community diversity will be decreased. So that's why we say, like, the third factor which can also be keep into account, that is species evenness. Species evenness is the third factor which is responsible to be considered as species diversity. So this is the first level of biodiversity, in which we have discussed about 3 important aspects. Number 1, species richness. As I told you, number of different species living together in a community represent the species richness of a community or a habitat. And then species abundance. Species abundance means how many individuals of each species can exist in that particular community. It shows the abundance of a species. If we multiply these two, so we can calculate the density of a community. I mean, how much the community is dense. I mean, and then you have to divide it by this square area as well. So we can calculate, we will discuss later on. And then the third point is species evenness. In some cases, some circumstances, I have given an example like this one, when the species richness is also equal. Species richness is 1 species, 2 species, 3 species, 4 species, 5 species. So we have total species, we have 5 species in both the community. And however, if you count all these, so the sum total of abundance is this 47. Here is also 47. So we say abundance is equal, richness is the same. Then we have to decide on the basis of evenness. And if you see the evenness, this species is much more dominated on all these 4 species. So there's these 2 species on a great risk when certain changes in the environment might take place. And that's why we say that community A has a big diversity than community B. So this is all about the the species diversity.